just introduce Audrey. Audrey, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I'll let you go ahead and introduce a little bit of your background and jump right in.
Sure. Well, first, I want to say thanks for having me. I am really excited to spend the evening with you and share some of my thoughts on a topic that I think is near and dear to every Agilist's heart. What do we do with our leaders, and how do we help them support our transformations by providing them the tools that they need? Currently, I work for Scaled Agile. I work in the Americas group, so a lot of my time is spent with our enterprise partners and our enterprise Agilists, so lots of leaders out there. I came previously, I was with, if you've read my bio, I was in large enterprises for the majority of my career. So I have been in pretty much every facet of Agile you could imagine. And I love sharing the stories and a lot of the success patterns that I've seen, because I think that this is the way that we learn and we grow, by sharing some of those things that might not have gone so well, what we've learned from them and how that's changed how we move forward. So with that, let's get into this. I really want to talk about Lean Agile leadership, a couple different things about it: mindset, behaviors, and engagement. Mindset's one of those terms that people keep throwing around, right? You need to change your mindset, or they don't have the right mindset, or, well, if only this leader would mimic the mindset of this other one. But oftentimes, we don't stop to give them the tools and help explain why they need to change their mindset before we ask them for a mindset shift. So I want to start off this evening by sharing an all too common conversation that I have. This is how it typically starts. Someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Audrey, I need you to help my leaders understand the need for a mindset shift and what that means for them. I want you to share with them how they need to act to support our transformation." So I usually respond with, "Okay, tell me a little bit. Give me a little bit of the context. Tell me about the training that they've had, some of the coaching maybe that you've been doing with them, what your interactions have been like. What do you think might be keeping them from shifting their mindset?" And often common response is, "Oh, they haven't been trained. They don't have time for that. We just need you to tell them that they need to change." Thinking to myself, typically, and not saying this out loud, is, hey, maybe this is an opportunity to learn more about the reason behind the change in the first place. So tell me about that tipping point moment. I would continue with my questions. That reason that led your organization to decide they wanted a Lean Agile transformation. Sometimes there's silence, and other times there's responses like, "Well, I think a leader in another area made this decision," or, "I'm not really sure, they were already Agile before I got here." Right after that, just to make sure we're all aligned and we're on the same page, I'll usually have some check for understanding questions. So if I get this straight, your request is for me to tell your leaders that they need to have a mindset shift that would support your transformation when they may or may not know the reason behind the change, and they haven't been trained on Lean and Agile. You can probably only imagine what the answer is to that one. It's typically, "Yes, exactly. Oh, and one more thing." And this is typically said with some excitement. "We have our own flavor of Agile. We've created some new names for the roles, some of our ceremonies. So we'd rather that you didn't mention some of the terms with these various frameworks." This is how I picture if somebody is going through a transformation, right? They're a leader and you want them to have that mindset shift, but they don't know where they're going. They don't know really where they came from. They don't know the reason behind the change. And you pretty much left them with nothing but an opportunity to maybe step off in the wrong direction. Today, we're going to talk about this mindset shift, and that Lean Agile leaders truly need to embrace this in order to support their transformations. And it does involve a shift in their thinking and in our thinking as well. But we can't start there. We can talk about the need for a mindset shift, but if we don't know why we need to change, we don't know the purpose behind it, then this might be what this feels like. I also want to point out that what we're going to talk about will apply whether you're here as a leader that's very interested, saying, hey, I think we're going to undergo a transformation, and I keep hearing about this mindset shift, and I'm curious about what that would look like for me. Or it might be that you're somebody that's trying to coach your leaders, and you just haven't had the success doing so that you're really looking for. So there's a couple of different ways that you can look at this evening. So let's start there. And I'm curious where you are today. So what I'd like to ask you to do in Zoom, in the chat in just a moment, is I want you to think about if you were about your mindset and the shift that you need to make to truly support a transformation. Would you say that you're there? Hey, I'm there. I've made the shift and I'm ready to start influencing others and helping them on their journey. Or would you say, not quite there yet, but I'm on my way and I want to be that leader? Or would you say that I'm just starting down on that path and I'm really curious about the journey? So I'd like to just pause for a moment so you can reflect on this. And if you wouldn't mind typing it in chat, but don't hit enter yet. I'd rather we all just hit enter at the same time so we can see all of the responses to see how many people are in, each one of these. And there's no wrong box here, right? We're all in different places on this journey. And Sherry, do you want to be in a moment? You want to be the one that says 3, 2, 1, go? You were on mute.
Okay, absolutely. I will say that one more time.
Okay.
So yeah, 3, 2, 1.
Is there a clear winner of just the amount of one answer over the others?
Seems pretty even across all.
Awesome. Well, the good news is wherever you are on this journey, my hope is that you're going to walk away with some really good tools and techniques that you can help if it's you that you're trying to change the mindset for, or if it's others. So first of all, we can't say you need a mindset shift until you even know about the change. People need to know what that change is, why that change is occurring, before they can really step into it. So we're going to talk about the mindset shift, explore some of the behaviors, and then we're going to talk about the engagements. Once people have made that shift, how do you engage with them? If you're that leader that made that shift, how do you engage with others, right? How do you then help exemplify that for the leaders that report to you, for leaders in other areas of your enterprise? So we're going to connect it all together with some really great engagement patterns about how and where and when to lean in to support the transformation. So a Lean Agile mindset. So for leaders to adopt a Lean Agile mindset requires really 2 things, assuming they already know why they're changing: awareness and practice. It doesn't happen overnight. Every class I teach with change agents, my number 1 advice that I give them before they leave the classroom, and I usually repeat it many, many times, is be patient and extend grace. Change is hard. So it's an awareness of the mindsets that led them to believe that the existing approaches work and that they're working just fine. That's really that starting point. And it's a move away from some of these limiting thought patterns that are focused on these past ways of working to come to a place of openness and possibility. It's about adapting their thinking and behavior in a way that's going to inspire others and increase the positive outcomes that you can achieve with a Lean Agile transformation. And it's about exploring the leadership changes that are necessary to influence this change in others. I believe the best way to help leaders embrace a mindset shift is to share the principles and the values behind a Lean Agile transformation. These are game changers. The best Lean Agile leaders I've met embody the principles and values that I'll share with you in a moment. They become part of everything that they do and are a consideration with every decision that they make. So let's start with the House of Lean. Notice what's holding up this house. What's on the bottom? Leadership. Leadership and strong leadership that understands how they can best support transformation is crucial to enable it to be sustainable. I could say one of them was my favorite, but they pretty much all are. So think about respect for people and culture. Are you as a leader focusing on finding ways to help people work better together? Facilitating some of those relationship building opportunities. Are you empowering them to explore ways to solve issues that come up? What about flow? Are you focused on getting the things out of their way that are slowing people down? The biggest switch that I think people have difficulty with, moving from the traditional management style to becoming a Lean Agile leader, is giving up that control of decisions, being that expert. They're not all of a sudden not an expert anymore, but it's handing off that empowerment to other people to make the decisions. So what about flow? Innovation. Let's start with innovation. That's my favorite. I love it when leaders say, well, Audrey, we don't have time for innovation. I don't have time for people to sit around and just come up with random ideas. I don't know where people get these, but sometimes they're just give them this extra time. I'm going to pay them to come up with these random ideas that might not even go anywhere. Well, I will tell you that our leadership at Scaled Agile fully embraces innovation. And we had a hackathon at the end of the last PI. Brendan and I, Brendan who's on, were part of the team that won. But what we did is we created a completely new site for a specific role in the framework that we're trying to build out. This one-stop shop, instead of searching for everything, we have it right here. And whatever we don't have, what gaps we found, that's when we started to work on those. So is it really just kind of coming up with stuff that's not necessary? No. There's always a focus on how can we better deliver solutions and services to our customers? What gaps do we see in what they currently have and what we think that they want? And we've already showed it to some customers and they're like, fantastic, when can I have it? So it's not just innovating in a bubble, it's innovating along with your customers. It's a huge mindset shift that Lean Agile leaders really need to make. And then relentless improvement. Continuous just sounds so boring now anymore. I keep thinking of what used to be continuous improvement. It changed to relentless. You have to relentlessly improve in order to remain competitive. Anyone else have retrospectives at their house? I'd love to see hands raised, or some of you, I see Catherine, I see Sherry. So I thank you for that. I'm not alone. But once you change your mindset, even in just these few areas that I've mentioned, it changes you everywhere. You don't just develop a Lean Agile mindset and look for improvement opportunities, right? Look for, ways that you can increase your flow in certain areas, just at the workplace. It becomes something that you embody and you embrace through everything that you do in life. So let's talk about the principles. If you ever get to come to any of my classes, I try to relate everything back to these principles. Having a lean agile mindset doesn't mean that, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the system demos and I will go to my team stand-ups every now and then, and I'll see if they need anything. And it's all about just these ceremonies. It's not. The ceremonies are just a mechanism to make sure that you maintain an alignment in what you're doing, among other things. But think of applying systems thinking. I'm not just looking at me anymore. Not looking at my fiefdom, not looking at my little area. I'm looking holistically as a company, potentially. I love it when you find different initiatives that cross different business units and different areas, and those opportunities for people to really start thinking outside of themselves, outside of their departments, full on into other areas of their enterprise as well. The fast integrated learning cycles. I love learning. Who else likes learning here? I would probably say all of you because you're here tonight. And some of you who are on the East Coast like me, it's already like almost 8:30. Learning is crucial to having a lean agile mindset. You don't just learn about this new way of working and move on. You learn, you fail, right? At a lot of different things. It's a process. And then you learn from that. And then you try something else. I will tell you that I was a product manager of a very large agile release train before I had even one, I'll say, minutes of safe training. I didn't know what I was doing. But the beauty of it is I knew how to appreciate people. And so people would, yes, Audrey, sure, we'll do that. We'll do that for the customer. We'll do that for the customer. And then I got safe training. And I had to apologize to a whole bunch of people for a lot of things that I did that were not of ill intent, but they weren't helpful for them and the enterprise in the long run. Once you have that mindset, you're like, oh, as I look back, if only I could have done this differently. What are some of those other things that would have been more helpful? Decentralizing decision-making. What are some of those decisions that you've made for years and years and years, but you don't need to anymore? Great questions, though. All right, so let's talk about some of these behaviors. We talked about the principles. We talked about the House of Lean and some of those different things and qualities that are going to help a leader change their mindset. So how would that translate into how they act and react as they're supporting their transformation? So let's start with a change catalyzer. As I said before, change is hard. But once people understand the reason for the change, and they can see the benefits of that change, and you see the mindset shift there, they become change catalyzers. They want to change other areas. Those are your champions that are saying, hey, this does work. I want to help as we're going to then move this change into another area of our business. Part of it is too, you want to change your behavior by changing your expectations for the behaviors. How many of you, when you think about it, and this is just a pondering question, know who that change catalyzer is? Maybe you are. You know, it's not, I hate it when it's you're bought in. No, you've really experienced something that's been powerful enough for you to internalize the benefits and then want to share that experience with others in other areas of your business. That's truly what it means to be a change catalyzer. You don't want to stop just in your area. You want to help others embrace change as well. So another one right here, we have a breakdown disabler. You are helping move things out of the way of your teams, of your arts, of your enterprise. Somebody in another session when we were having a conversation was like, well, don't you sometimes want to enable breakdowns? And I guess that could always also be true. Think about if you're always there to rescue your teams and you're part of the organization, and they don't experience what would happen if you didn't. So sometimes it's necessary on their learning journey for them to provide that, for you to provide that opportunity for them. So this one right here, I've changed like 3 times. First, I was thinking that you're really defending learning. If you're not learning as an organization, if you're not learning as part of your Lean Agile transformation, then you're doing yourself and your enterprise a disservice. So I started off with like learning defender, and it just seems so strong, and really a learning facilitator. You are finding those opportunities, not just for you to learn, but for others around you to learn. And it's not just your teams, it's also your peers. It's also your leaders. I attended a virtual online leadership conference last week. But instead of just me doing it, I had my peers doing it, and also extended the invite to all of my leaders and their leaders, with the hope that we can then share what we can do with this new information. So it goes beyond book clubs. Book clubs are great. I'm in 2 or 3 of them, which kind of goes against principle number 6 with all my with just books. But when you think about it, there's book clubs, there's communities of practice, there's all different ways that you can learn. Never discount that. There's a number of blogs I have out there on learning networks that I started years ago. And what a learning network is you're finding people within your business, within your enterprise, within your networks. Rather than looking outside for learning, you're starting to do that inside as well. So Lean Agile leaders that have had a mindset shift are looking for opportunities where their people have voiced a desire to learn something new, and they're finding those opportunities for them. They're facilitating those conversations, even if it's outside of the enterprise. So how many of you feel like you have a clear vision of your company and your transformation and everything that you're doing? It's really important for people to understand the why behind the transformation and the vision for it. What do you want to do with it? Where is it going to take us? What are some of those outcomes that we want from it? If I don't know, and if I feel disconnected from it, or if at the high level of my enterprise, oh yeah, they all know what the vision is. I ask my leaders and they're like, I don't know what that is. Or, oh, it doesn't apply to you, just kind of do your work. Or if I feel like it doesn't even connect, if it's brought front and center, you know, those town halls that you have, those all hands meetings, those, yes, here's our vision, I'm going to share it for the year, but you don't know how your work connects to that. That's the hardest place for people to be in. So a strong Lean Agile leader that has made that mindset shift is looking for opportunities to share how the work of their teams and their part of the organization connects in with that vision. Think of the motivation that people have if they don't know how they're contributing to the big picture. They're just checking boxes. They're just doing their little piece and going home and wondering, how is that furthering me as an individual? How is that furthering my company and what we stand for and what we hope to accomplish? And then culture changer. We always say culture changes last, right? It's been built up over, you know, some of these companies have been around for, over a century. Cultures have been built up from the leadership and the policies and the procedures and everything you can ever imagine, all the habits of an organization. It takes time to change it, one leader at a time. Or hopefully you'll have more than one. But it takes time. You start working on it right away. But it doesn't change right away. That's where that patience has to come in. If the first sign that something's not going as we hoped, and we all start going back, culture change is never going to happen. Strong Lean Agile leaders that have made that mindset shift will make it very apparent that going back is not an option. But you're here to help that organization and propel them forward with their transformation. And culture changes are going to follow. Relationship cultivator. This is very much in line with being a learning facilitator, but there's a little bit of difference here. I'm helping cultivate relationships with my peers, even in other business units. In some places, that's a little bit unheard of. Aren't I in line with them for that next end of year thing that's going on if we don't have Agile HR in place yet? But cultivating relationships so that people can be brought together and actually understand, as a company, where are we going and how can we help each other get there? Really focused on that big picture. And then nurturing the environment. We talk a lot about environments, don't we? The environment, the space that you create, that safe space that you create, where people are welcome to share their opinions, share their thoughts, learn together, grow together, work together, without any fear that if they make a mistake or if they do something wrong, then it's not going to go so well for them. So it's really incumbent upon Lean Agile leaders to nurture the environment that you create during your transformation. That's the only way you're going to help make it sustainable. It can't be, hey, we transformed, I'm hands off now. It's not, I had a mindset shift, but yeah, they don't need me anymore, so I'm just going to go back maybe to my old ways. Then maybe you didn't have that shift after all. So I'd love for you to share in chat here. There's 7. I had 10. I brought it down to 7. I have 7 really key behaviors that I believe are essential for Lean Agile leaders and that help them demonstrate and showcase that they have made a mindset shift. So what would you say that you are? What's your biggest strength here? Are you that change catalyzer? Have you brought Agile, your transformation, into your enterprise and you're ready to help it expand and grow into other areas of your business? Are you working on the culture change? Are you helping other leaders on their journey that might be struggling with this change? Are you working on ways to help connect the vision of your company and your area? Awesome. So these are behaviors that show that you've made a mindset shift. If you haven't made a mindset shift, these aren't things that you're looking to do. So engagement. How to engage? So we've talked about making sure that you understand the reason behind the change. We've talked about what it looks like to make that mindset shift. We've talked about some of those behaviors. Now let's talk about the engagement. How do you know what is enough or what's not enough? How do you know when to lean in, when not to lean in? How do you engage and inspire others on the journey? There's no one size fits all engagement model. So I'll show some engagement patterns that I've observed and experienced, and some invitations on where to lean in and where maybe to take a step back. So knowing when to lean in. The first answer that people usually give here has to do with a specific ceremony. But what if it's outside of ceremonies? And it's Lean-Agile leaders that are really spending time with their people. Maybe it's a coffee break. Maybe it's sitting down with them and just having the focus of a one-on-one be related to the transformation and the work that they're doing and how they could best help you. What are the next things that your people want to learn? So leaning in doesn't necessarily have to be a ceremony. In fact, I've found that the most valuable conversations like this, the most valuable lean-ins, are completely independent of a formal ceremony. Finding out how your people are doing, finding out where they might need a little bit more of your help. I actually had a CEO a couple of weeks ago say, you know what would be really cool is if people would actually let me know if I'm on track with my transformation. Specific key people like the RTE, this person's obviously a business owner, but it would be really cool if they could let me know some kind of validation. Might sound surprising coming from a CEO, but leaders, independent of what level that they are in an organization, are always looking for ways to lean in, and they're always looking for ways for other people to lean in and have conversations with them. It's not a one-way street. So what about knowing when to lean out? Sometimes you need to give people the space to learn their new role, to begin to embrace the principles and values of what it means to have a Lean-Agile mindset. And even sometimes give them the space to fail in order for them to come to the realization that a mindset shift is hard, but it's very much needed. You keep picking something up for people, leaning in and taking care of things when somebody is working off an old mindset, they're never going to change. Where they could, but it's going to be harder for them to change. So just something to consider. So a couple of different things. Explore change. Find out about it. Find out why you transformed. Even if you're in a company right now that went a Lean-Agile transformation years ago, maybe even before you were there, aren't you a bit curious? You can come in and say, hey, you know what? Maybe you were hired because you've been a Lean-Agile leader in another organization and you know all about that. You've already made that mindset shift. But aren't you curious about how the change came about in the organization that you're in right now? Maybe you do know why that change came about, and maybe others didn't. So it might not be for you just exploring it, but maybe sharing it with others, especially others that you can see have not made that mindset shift yet. Exemplify a mindset shift through your behaviors. I was in a conversation with a colleague actually this morning in a group. We're talking about something, and one person mentioned, well, we could go this way. We would be, if we don't take the quality perspective and keep that top of mind, but we do this because it might relate to a different strategy. Hey, quality's front and center, right? One of the core values that we have. So if I didn't have a mindset shift and I was like, yeah, it's okay, we can, kind of do some things that are, what's right once you've made that shift. And you know what things that you could do that would not exemplify that. So exemplify a mindset shift through your behaviors. I should add, consistently. So if you're in a situation where I was helping a customer this morning, and then engaging with others along the way. It's hard to change your mindset to a new way of working if you're by yourself. Help coach others. Help share some of those successes that you've had. Help them understand the impact that mindset shift has had on you. Not just in your current area, but all over. How are you influencing, not just engaging others, but influencing change to be sustainable? So going back is not an option. So those are my 3 things for you tonight to really take away from here. As you're coaching other people to help them have a mindset shift, as you're working towards that full shift yourself, or wherever you may be on that spectrum. And I think that's all I had for you tonight. So let's open it up to some of these questions really related to the topic about Lean Agile leadership and making this mindset shift, what it looks like. You know, what are some of those experiences? Maybe some of you want to share what some of those are like.
Well, let's end there. Thank you so much, Audrey, for joining us. Congrats to Daniel Wynn for winning a one-on-one with you. And thank you everyone so much for joining us.
Yes. Thank you all for having me. Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye, everyone.